Hello everyone, we're back. After a not so short break, I'm here again to talk about another datasheet for Necrons. This time, after a popular request, we're going to be covering Triarch Praetorians. So, Triarch Praetorians recently got a points buff. They went down to 90 points for 5. They're something that's not really taken very often in many lists. But there are still a special place for them in some lists. I know Andy and myself have both taken them in our recent Necron lists. Andy's taken them in his Star Shatter, and I have taken them in my Phalanx list. And they're probably the two best. Well, they're also good in Hypercrypt. So I'm going to be covering what they do, how you can use them in each like detachment and their kind of role and what weapons I like to choose and why I like to take them. So if we just jump over, here is the data sheet. Thank you again, Warpedia. So I think there used to be a fast attack choice in like 9th edition or 8th edition, whenever you used to do um, like army structures like that. And essentially they're kind of our version of JPI, which are jump pack intercessors for Space Marines, because they are pretty much our fastest infantry unit, and they're good at they're reasonably tough for their points, and they're quite good at trading, and they also have deep strike. So they obviously move 10 and they fly, which is quite nice. Their toughness 5, 3 up save, 2 wounds. So they're similar to this. They're basically the Lich Guard body, because obviously that's the second kit. Leadership 7, because we used to be a faction that had leadership 10, and back then it was if you rolled below your leadership you'd fail. So I don't know what's happened there, but it is what it is. OC1, which is one of our very few units that actually has only OC1. Most of our like elite infantry has OC2, except Lich Guard, of course. So they've got 2 weapon options. They've got the rods, which are rod of the Covenant. See, there you go. I told you I'd be bad at reading, and a particle caster with a void blade. My personal preference is the rod of the Covenant, and the reason I like that is because it's just better at killing Space Marines. Whereas the particle caster does have dev wounds and is obviously a pistol, and it's got more attacks, so it's better at killing hordes. I just prefer Rod of the Covenant because Space Marines are always really popular. Right now, power armor in general is really popular. And in stuff, and the AP2 as well is really nice. And damage 2 in shooting and combat. So the particle casters, dev wounds, pistol with 501. So usually you're just hoping for those 6s. And then Rod of the Covenant's one shot 522. Rod of the Covenant in combat is also 522, and the Void Blade's 521 with just one more attack. But I think you kill one more Space Marine on average after shooting and fighting between the two, something like that. I could be wrong, but Rod of the Covenant is my personal preference, and they look cooler in my opinion. Apart from their horrible models, because their staffs always snap, and every Necron player knows their struggles. So they have deep strike as well, which is really important. So in some of my games, obviously Necrons struggle quite a bit to attack your opponent's expansion, unless you're running like giant bricks of race, but then you're committing a 300 point unit to go and attack their expansion, which isn't amazing. And on the UKTC boards, like the Search and Destroy maps and the Crucible maps, you can't actually hide that many massive things behind those on those pieces of terrain, especially the Search and Destroy one. It is quite difficult to access that building on the right hand side, which of your deployment, which I'm sure you're all aware, because they've got a building that's sat at the very back of the objective, and you've got to cross quite a lot of distance. So them having deep strike is really helpful because they're able to rapid ingress and then move 10 inches and charge into the, and they can charge like up the floor as well of that small ruin and fight downwards if they can't just reach the side. But obviously they have to be touching. So rapid ingress deep strike is really helpful. It's also why they're quite good in Hypercrypt, because you can pick them up and bring them back down anywhere without having to spend the CP for the 6-inch deep strike, and it just helps. It just gives you a good rapid ingress threat into the middle. But they're also just good at early trading because they do have to, like, your opponent does have to commit something real into them, because if two survive, then you obviously res and so on and so forth. Their rule is okay. It would they've got reroll charges and they can fall back and charge. So the fall back and charge is the strongest part of this rule. Reroll charges is just quite nice in general. Having a free reroll for something is obviously really nice, but fall back and charge is really good because your opponent, you can heroic something, fight, fall back, gives you extra movement to fall back, charge something up the board. Like sometimes your opponent will just leave you in combat because Necrons traditionally don't have much fall back and shoot. They've only got 3 instances of it in the entire book, which is this. Well, fall back can do anything, which I believe is this, the Royal Warden, and the enhancement in Star Shatter. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that they're the only ones. And it just helps you keep active. You can't get tagged up, which is really nice to have. It would be nicer if they had advance and charge, but Necrons just don't have that at all in the book, which is quite depressing. But that's for another video, and I'm sure I've gone on about that. So I usually run them in 5-mans as little trading pieces, but you can definitely run them in a 10-man. I've tried a 10-man. I did like the 10-man, but because 180 points is quite expensive though, especially, I mean, if you compare 10 Triarch Praetorians to 10 Scutari Sicarian infiltrators, sorry. I think Sicarian infiltrators are 60 points for 5, so it's a lot cheaper. They're very cheap. They're either 76, around that mark. Anyway, they're cheaper than these. These obviously res. They're a bit tougher. They got a better save. But the others do hit a lot harder now with the buffs. So they're kind of a bit expensive for 10, but they do kind of do a decent amount of damage. But without rerolls, they aren't that efficient. So that's why it's good to run them in Star Shatter. Because, and obviously if you're running the King anyway, you can get the rerolls if you're nearby him. But if you're running, like, say, Star Shatter, you can get +1 to hit if they're on an objective, so they're hitting on 2s, wounding on, and then they can have access to +1 to wound as well for 2 CP on an objective, so they're wounding Space Marines on 2s. Obviously, it's quite circumstantial, but very helpful. So that's why Andy runs them in Star Shatter, because they're just a bit more reliable. They're good trade pieces. If the King's nearby, they're hitting on 2s, rerolling, wounding on 3s, rolling 1s. And they're just nice. And in Phalanx, obviously, they benefit from. They're one of the few units that benefit from the detachment rule for +1 to wound. So when I played against Lewis in the finals of the Invitational, the +1 to wound actually really helped with them, because they just go out there, and then anything that's toughness 5, like 4 or lower, they win on 2s, 5 they win on 3s, toughness 6 or higher, they win on 4s, and obviously 10 or higher, they win on 5s. So it just helps with the +1 to wound there. So them actually benefiting from them. But they're usually just your trading piece. You want to set them in a place where if you have 2 units, you usually want one on the board, one off the board, in my opinion. But it really depends game to game, so you have to be able to identify that. And you just go out there, trade. They're good at, like, moving from one ruin to the other quite efficiently. If the Silent King's not doing anything first turn, you are running them both together. They can be 12-inch movement if you pick that aura turn 1. So they're just quite nice little trading unit. And obviously in Hypercrypt, as I said, they can go up and down as much as they want. And the rapid ingress is probably one of their stronger things. But I really like them as a unit. I think they still they're basically the same points as a Scorpec unit. So you're looking at it and you're like, basically, what's this doing that a Scorpec unit isn't doing? Scorpec units are slower. They take up a lot more space with their bases. and they can't fly as well, so they can get stuck. They do more damage, definitely. Scorpex are just our best melee unit for trading, but they don't have any rapid ingress potential. And again, these guys can hide in some of the places a lot better than Scorpex can. But Scorpex are just so cheap for what they are. That's why I really like Scorpex and the Lord as well. Obviously, we like the Lord. So, yeah, I think they're a really, really good choice, and I don't really know what else to say. Like they did a lot of work in my games, but some games they don't have really a purpose, but they can still do actions and stuff. They can move, block, which is expensive for what it is, but the fallback and charge is quite helpful, definitely. Like in the game against Innis, I heroicked into a Storm Raven when he charged me, so I could like get more movement to go up the further up the board. And against Reese, I just charged into his Big Knight with another unit, and then fell back and charged onto his home. So the mobility and not being able to pin them down is quite helpful. It would be nice if they could fall back, shoot, and charge, because I'm not really sure why they don't have that. Oh, if they could just advance and charge, that would be so good as well. But I could probably get a game up super quick, and I'll have a look, and I'll be able to show you exactly where I can go, where you can go on the maps, because I think that's probably the best thing for me to do. So I'm just gonna quickly load it up, and I'll show you what I mean, because the visuals are always good. I think I'm just gonna do visuals on every game because it just makes the content a bit longer form as well. So let me change the screen. I don't even know how to swap it. There we go. Get rid of that. I apologize, everyone. Look at that. There we are. We're doing it. Okay. So on the UKTC maps, I'll show you what I mean on the search and destroy map, because this is probably the one where they actually are the best. And then let's see if I can actually find. That must have some in it, right? Yeah, there they are. Look at that. If memory serves me correctly, these are in. Come on, game. No, okay. So best place for them. I have one off the board, one on the board, usually. So what I meant earlier when I said was it was this distance, like from your deployment. I mean, okay, so you still have a turn, you stage there. It's still 15 inches there to there, so it is a lot of distance to cover. And if you've got Scorpex, like 8 inches would like maybe just about get you there if your base can fit over, and you have to be right against the wall. So I've got some Scorpex here. If he's right there, see, look, I can't even get him over with 8, which is depressing. So I can get him there, and then it's a 7-inch charge. Whereas I mean, I prefer the rapid ingress, as I said, but at least then it's a 5-inch charge, which you can re-roll. So it really helps. But usually because I'll have like a DDA sat here in this spot where they can't see down here. So you have it here, and then they can't see here. So if they poke anything out here, you've got a DDA to respond. So usually they won't just park something there, and then you can rapid ingress behind this wall here, and then they can't shoot you or anything. And then you've got 10 inches of movement to easily get wherever you want, and you can charge a unit off the point there. Sometimes I'll have them here so they can go forward, but this is very, very unlikely. And then usually I'll deploy them here, and then I think it's a 2 on the advance, something like that. Yeah, if they're a little bit further forward, there you go. See, I've already memorized how far I need to go. I'm definitely not cringe. So yeah, it's like a 2 on the advance to get them here. That's if they've got a back rank. So And the reason I have them ranked up like this is because I deploy like another DDA here, because on UKTC you can sit like hanging off the board like this, because UKTC is dumb and just let you deploy hanging off the board, so you can't be seen down here. So you just hide like a DDA in plain sight, because its base like isn't hanging off. Yeah, and then you just have these guys here, so you can do something like this, and then if you've not got flayed ones there, they're like the first ones to jump here and then sit there. Or if they've put like infiltrators here to stop you putting your flayed ones there, for example, you can attack early with the Triarch Praetorians, and then obviously you can save rapid ingress, so you force your opponent to screen the backfield, because the reason this being placed here is a bit precarious, because your opponent has to have something behind this wall to screen. They can't just hold it from this side and be fine, because they have to screen behind that wall, so they have to put something dedicated behind there. So it just forces a screen out for a turn. But I think that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to be doing another one, but hopefully I'm going to try and aim for about 15 minutes per video. If you guys liked it, then fucking give us a like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. We've got the Discord up and running. Not got the Patreon up and running. Please don't subscribe to the upper tier of the Patreon if you do subscribe to it. I've not actually linked it anywhere because I've not set it up yet, because I haven't done enough like videos to set up like a separate thing. So please don't subscribe to that, because we had somebody subscribe to it because I'd forgotten to uh, like take it down. But just on tier 1, if you do find it, then that's just to support the channel in any way and get us a better camera and all that jazz. But I'm not trying to beg for anything. But thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it very much, and I will see you guys at the next one.